Hey there, adventurers. This is Kate. And I'm Dan.
Doing all right there, Dan?
And we're unpacking after a long day of Type 2 fun, skiing our way to a remote cabin in the Alaskan wilderness.
Like every step is a post hole. That's brutal.
And we're long overdue for some food, water, and rest. We've got a fire built, and the cabin is slowly warming up. And we're having fun recapping the first half of our adventure. It's been a day for sure, and we've got a lot to share with you. But before we get too far into our journey, let's talk about Type 2 fun. For those of you familiar with outdoor adventuring, you've probably heard of Type 2 fun. But for those of you who haven't, Type 2 fun is something that wasn't necessarily fun in the moment, but in retrospect was really great. You'll often encounter this on longer adventures when you start to get tired or hungry or just physically overwhelmed by the task at hand. But you still need to push through. The nice thing about Type 2 fun is that the payoff is so much sweeter when you come through the other side. If you joined us on our last adventure to the Swan Lake cabin, you might have a good idea of the payoff we're looking for: a beautiful, secluded mountain landscape. While last time we traveled by snow machine, dragging our gear behind us in a sled that kept breaking off, this time we're doing things totally differently by cross-country skiing to a cabin and still dragging our gear behind us. This time in a sled that keeps tipping over.
Oh, so close. Whoop, hang on, stop. I got it.
Seriously, if I had recorded every time this sled tipped over, it would have been a 30-minute compilation. But rather than bore you with that, just take our word for it, that this sled tipping single-handedly took what could have been a fun and easy trip and shoved it hard into Type 2 fun territory, at least for Kate and I. Someone else who was having some Type 2 fun was Tobias.
Nice save, good save.
This was his first time traveling to a remote Alaskan cabin and his second day ever on cross-country skis. To say that he didn't quite know what he was getting into would be an understatement. But he actually did a really great job and kept his spirits high for most of the day. There's even a small chance he might ever consider hanging out with us again. Someone who was loving every second of this journey was Mats.
Go, Mats, go!
Mats was perpetually excited to be here, and that's exactly the type of energy we needed to push through and get to the cabin. Mats really pulled the team together, and along with her was Caitlin and Anna, who seemed to be the only ones who knew what they were doing. I can say now, since this trip is over, that it was really fun. But we had no idea how sticky the snow would get and how much effort this would take. The real Type 2 fun was about to begin. But before we cross that bridge, let's talk about where we're headed.
There it goes.
Situated on the shore of Lower Russian Lake, the rustic Barber Cabin sleeps 6, has an outhouse, a woodshed, and, of course, a wood-burning stove. It had plenty of room for us to hang our gear to dry, cook all the good food, and had a great table perfect for eating and playing games. It's located just over 4 miles from the Lower Russian Lake's trailhead. 4 miles isn't that far of a distance to cover, but with conditions as they were, it took us around 5 hours to get there, which was too many hours.
As you can see, it's very dark. And we are just now arriving to the cabin. Just a little last bit of light out.
Needless to say, we were more than ready to relax and enjoy each other's company once we finally arrived. Speaking of good company, if you're enjoying this video, let us know in the comments. And be sure to subscribe to our channel for more amazing cabin adventures. Before we settled in for the night, our friend Caitlin wanted to fulfill one of her favorite winter camping tasks: chopping through the frozen lake ice for water.
No, I'm just gonna be
There's
out
one
here
thing
like
Kay likes. It
patching
is. Needs a little bit of time to.
You think it's fine?
I mean, I don't think that.
like a wolf at a rave. Hi! Come on.
For the return journey, Caitlin and I decided we were going to change our gear setup, switching from skis to snowshoes. We figured that with the snow being as wet and sticky as it was, we'd have an easier time walking in snowshoes than trying to manage skis that wouldn't glide. Unfortunately for me, this didn't last long. As you may remember from earlier in the winter season, I had a snowshoe malfunction during a hunting trip. And while I had fixed that issue, I failed to see the larger underlying problem.
Yep, that's done for now.
This time, the snowshoe had a complete failure, and no amount of duct tape was going to fix it.
Swapping to skis. Swapping to skis. Can you pull my skis out of there?
Yep.
All right, locked and loaded.
Since we're talking about gear, let me walk you through our sled setup. This was our first time trying to ski to a remote cabin, and we had quite a bit of gear to bring along with us. A change of clothes, sleeping pads, sleeping bags, food, cookware, and water are all heavy and take up space. Most importantly, we brought a lot of wood to burn. This would have been too cumbersome in backpacks, so we decided to pull it in a sled. Genius. What maybe wasn't genius was not having the setup ready before we got there.
All right, what are you doing?
This is going to be a contraption that will theoretically keep the sled from sliding over the backs of my skis whenever we go on a slide down. It will also make a lot of noise and annoy the shit out of everyone.
Perfect.
If I just had the rope between me and the sled, the rope would go slack and bad things would happen. The intention was that the pipes would keep me from getting run over. And while this technically worked, it made for some awkward skiing, as the sled would push and move me around. It was kind of a lot to manage, and made me a bit anxious when faced with larger hills, like this one.
Sorry, Anna, for laughing.
At least you didn't get run over by the sled when you did that.
I'm so sorry, Anna, for laughing.
Then it was my turn, and I wasn't exactly feeling confident.
See if you can make it.
Between the weight of the sled, sticky skis, a narrow trail lined by trees, and a steep hill down to a lake, what could possibly go wrong? But the setup proved worthy, and we learned a lot for next time. We'll be getting some PVC pipe to replace the metal, and we'll work on the tipping issue. We'd love to hear about your ski sled setups in the comments. After I swapped back to skis from snowshoes, we continued back the way we came. Though we were still tired from the day before, the load was significantly lighter, having burned all the wood, drank all the water, and eaten all the food. Our pace was much faster, covering the same terrain in the same conditions in about half the time, at least until we saw signs of moose on the trail. Moose are by far the most dangerous animal we regularly encounter. They can be very ill-tempered when hungry and tend to get stompy when upset. This isn't great even in the best of conditions, but being on skis, strapped to a sled, made any sort of escape pretty much impossible. So we slowed down, made plenty of noise, and gave the moose time to move on. An animal we didn't expect to see was this spruce grouse, which honestly we should have predicted. Considering we've had zero success hunting for grouse this season, of course we'd find one when we weren't looking. As we were finishing up our trip, arriving back to the parking lot, Alaska gave us another gift. The clouds finally broke to clear blue sky, and the sun shone warm on the mountains above us. All in all, it wasn't a bad way to spend a winter weekend in Alaska. At least, we can say that now, in retrospect.
Can we do a cheers for the...
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone. Nice.
See you next time, adventurers.